So in the main event of tonight's TNA, we had this quote-unquote all-star matchup. It was Josh Alexander and his Northern Armory teaming up with Frankie Kazarian against an actual all-star team, being Steve Macklin, Eric Young, Mike Santana, and Jonathan Gresham. Now, in all honesty, I don't give a single damn about this. We've seen variations of all of these guys fighting so many times, especially Josh Alexander, Eric Young, and Steve Macklin. I'm just so over it because it doesn't feel like we're progressing anywhere with this. Now, don't get me wrong, individually, I like all of these guys, and there is so much potential with each of their stories, but they're just throwing them together because it doesn't feel like they have any idea what to do with these guys. They have no clue what to do with them, and it's starting to hinder them. Like, let's go through these guys. Josh Alexander in the Northern Armory. They can very easily build them as this top faction in TNA because, quite honestly, the system is kind of boring. There's a big gap there for some team to come in. Like, hire some Canadian to get into this group, some massive bruiser to add to this group and make them actually dominant. Hell, even a women's wrestler. This group can be so much better. Instead, it's Josh Alexander and two nobodies. And I'm not dissing Sinner and Saint, right? They need this opportunity to build to get better. I understand, but they're not giving this faction any credibility at this moment, and you can add other people in to actually give them that credibility. And when it comes to Frankie Kazarian, I don't know what to do with him. He was cool when I first started watching. He's kinda just a nobody now. Now on the babyfaces side, what are we doing with Steve Macklin still? I don't want to see him feud with Josh Alexander. We had such a cool thing with him going a couple of weeks ago, and even at the recent pay-per-view, that look, it was so cool, but I don't know what we're doing with him. And the same goes for Jonathan Gresham. Like, that octopus thing he had going was so freaking cool, man. I really like that. And again, we're dropping the ball with them. Let's revert to this. How about with Eric Young and Steve Macklin, we put them in the tag team division. And since Eric Young is Canadian, we have some conversations, but we don't know what about with him and Josh Alexander. This causes more distrust between Steve Macklin and Eric Young, and that's just better than whatever we're doing now. Plus, with Steve Macklin having PTSD, you can actually build a really cool story with it. Like, who remembers Lucha Underground and Killshot? Like, why don't we do something like that here to actually make Steve Macklin interesting? And Santana, let's put him in a title scene, not the X Division title scene. I don't want to see him and Moose again, but with Nick Nemeth, because I would actually think he's at this moment my top candidate to take the belt from Nick Nemeth. So why don't we start building towards that instead of keeping him with Frankie Kazarian, because that feud has no merits at all. So if you see where I'm coming from, I just don't think all of these guys being together is helping any of them at all. Because I'm dissing TNA over this because I want to see them do better and I see potential, and right now it's just not interesting. And Joe Henry was on commentary during this match, and since we're talking about the world title now, let's get to Nick Nemeth. He had this backstage promo. It feels like he never has promos in the ring anymore. And AJ Francis approaches him, and we're getting a title match at the next pay-per-view between these guys. And it's a problem I've had with Nick Nemeth's entire reign. His title challenges, it always feels so rushed. Like, they never take their time with it, and that kind of irritates me. And it's the very same here with AJ Francis. Because this feud, it feels so forced, man. I want to see AJ Francis versus Nick Nemeth. I think it could be an amazing feud. But let's be honest, from looking back at things, after the pay-per-view, they're not going to interact at all, and it's going to be over. And that sucks because for AJ Francis, he's been such a bright spot in TNA, and if this is his only chance in the main event scene, it's going to be very unfortunate. And unfortunately for Joe Henry, his time is way past. He shouldn't win the TNA World Heavyweight Championship now. I feel like back when he was so popular, TNA should have just called an audible and put the belt on him. But right now, I don't necessarily hear a lot of people talking about Joe Henry anymore. It feels like his hype has died down very much, except for people who watch TNA. Because right now, there are so many people I would rather see take that belt from Nick Nemeth. As I said before, Santana. PCO has grown on me a lot since the start. He's cool. I would like to see him get a world title reign, at the very least if it's just for his character. And hell, AJ Francis, put the belt on him. I wouldn't mind too much. It's just Joe Henry feels like we missed the shot. But yeah, I don't know what we're doing here, what we're doing. It just feels like we're pressing everything together because we don't actually have a clue what we really want to do. And this goes for the women's and the men's division too, because for the tag team match, we had a tag team title match on the show. The System versus the Hardy Boys ends in disqualification. Hardys retain, and we're gonna get a rematch at the next pay-per-view. Why? I don't want to see the system versus the Hardys anymore. I get it, your tag team division isn't deep at all, but man, we've seen this match over and over and over again, and I'm quite honestly tired of it. Like, they're not adding anything new to these matches, just making it a hardcore match isn't anything special. It's just the plain Hardy Boys versus the plain system, and it's boring. It's honestly boring. Like, I want to enjoy this. Hardy Boys are my favorite wrestlers of all time, but man, I just can't bring myself to care about this whatsoever. Like, I want to see more tag teams, not necessarily more tag teams, just different challengers, different stories for the tag team titles. Like, there's so much these guys can do, but we're just putting them in this basic ass stories with each other. And when it comes to the Knockouts division, Tasha Steelz defeats Jordan Grace. Now, I said I want to see different women be pushed instead of Jordan Grace, but this is not what I meant. Because we all know Jordan Grace is leaving, so I was suggesting putting other women over using her. Didn't mean Tasha Steelz. She's good and all, but I don't think she's pay-per-view quality. I don't think she's the one you should be putting against Masha Slamovich. Like, I don't want to see Jordan Grace versus Masha Slamovich again without a genuine blood feud. But I also don't want to see Tasha Steelz versus Masha Slamovich either. Like, I'm glad they're giving new women an opportunity. Or not necessarily new women, but like giving other people opportunities. But we can do a lot more with Jordan Grace than having her lose to Tasha Steelz and keeping her in this bubble with the system and Masha. Because that's the whole issue I have with this. Just the fact that we're not moving on to different things and we're just still stuck with the story that's been going on for months, and it hasn't been good since the start. Now, not all is bad, and there are some good things that I like about the show. The Good Hands lose to Sami Callihan and PCO, which is a tag team I quite like. I would not mind seeing them in the tag team division. They obviously win against the Good Hands, duh. And then after the match, there is something that appears on the Titantron, the number 23. I have no idea what that means, but I'm excited to find out. A bit of mystery is always good in wrestling. So they go questioning people backstage. They question Alex Hammerstone and Jake something. This sets up a match for next week. We're probably going to progress the story a bit with the number 23. I'm excited to see where that's going. I can't complain. And then we have an X Division number 1 contendership matchup, which Kushida wins. I'm fine with that result. I was rooting for Ace Austin. I want to see Ace Austin get a little push. But I'm not going to be mad at the fact that Kushida won. It's going to be an amazing match with Moose. That is fine. Again, I want to see Ace Austin win. I want to see him get pushed. But Kushida, very solid. Glad he's getting this opportunity. If I had to give tonight's show a rating, unfortunately, it would be my lowest so far with a 4 out of 10. Because I don't like the direction we're going with all of this stuff. It feels like it's very repetitive, and we've seen this stuff before, and it's not been interesting. And when I look at it, I see so much opportunity, so much things we could actually do, and TNA is just not capitalizing. And TNA is just not capitalizing on that, and that sucks. So yeah, I'm excited to see where we're going, because I do believe there's a lot of potential, and I'm gonna stick through it because I believe we'll reach it. But for now, the show is just very boring. So if you like my video and you want to see me keep ranting about how much I wish TNA could be better, then subscribe and join the community. We're having a lot of fun right now. The channel is growing a lot. So I would very much appreciate it if you joined. And yeah, leave a like, subscribe, it helps a lot, and I hope to see you again soon. I'm sending love to all around the world, and goodbye.